Hello everyone. Thanks for having me part of this lecture series for International Faculty Development Program on Biological Sciences. I'm Dr. Vijay Shekharan Duraisamy, and I'm happy to say I'm an alumnus of NGM College Department of Botany. So right now I'm working as a manager remote sensing in an agriculture technology company known as Source Trace. So right now my work involves mapping and monitoring of agriculture systems and creating crop simulation models for yield forecast and agriculture advisories for smallholder farmers in India as well as African countries. So as part of this lecture series, I'm going to present about basics of remote sensing and its applications in plant sciences, mainly the vegetation related studies. So basics of remote sensing, I'm planning to cover the types of remote sensing and the basic concept behind the remote sensing system and how the data is being collected by the remote sensing and how it is stored and distributed. And in the application part, I'm planning to give case study examples for vegetation health monitoring and detecting invasive plant species and also the land use land cover change. So let's begin. Okay, I start the lecture by answering this basic question: what is remote sensing? So, remote here means far distance, and sensing is acquisition or detection of any information. So, in layman definition for remote sensing is acquisition of information about an object or phenomenon without making physical contact with the object or phenomenon under investigation. So the remote sensing system trying to collect the information about the object without having direct physical contact. So that's how it differ from the in situ data collection or observation. So for example, human eye could act as a natural remote sensor. So in this diagram, you could see how the eye is collecting information about an object from a distance without having direct physical contact. So here the information about the object is carried by the visible light reflected from the object. So the energy source for the reflectance is incident solar radiation from sun. In the same way, it is being mimicked in the artificial remote sensing system. Here, instead of eye, we have a sensor or a camera that is mounted in a platform, either a satellite or aircraft, that captures this reflected light from Earth features. So let us look at the elements of remote sensing system. So the remote sensing system has the should have an illumination source, that is sun here, and the target, the Earth features in this case, and the sensor that is mounted in satellite, either a camera or a sensor, that continuously collects the information about the reflected energy from the Earth features, and that relay this information to the ground station. That information is stored and distributed to the image analyst. Using the image processing software, the analyst could make meaningful applications. So for the remote sensing system, the energy source is important. So the process involved here is the incoming energy source that partly interact with atmosphere, and finally it reaches the ground and interact with that incoming electromagnetic radiation interact with the Earth features. Either it could be reflected with the target, either it could be reflected or re-emitted or observed. So the reflected energy being transmitted that is captured by the sensor mounted in a platform, in this case the satellite, that stores this data and send it back to the ground station. So these are the various types of remote sensing system. So based on the vertical distance in which the remote sensing systems operates, it can be grouped in three categories. For example, near surface remote sensing systems that are Doppler radar, even our smartphones could act as a remote sensor. and even mobile rovers, and tethered balloon, and also the unmanned aerial vehicles and drones that act as a near surface remote sensing system that collects information about their features. And for suborbital remote sensing system, that includes aircrafts and stratospheric balloons mounted with camera that collects or takes pictures or photographs of Earth features. That is utilized for mapping this Earth features. And the recent developments in CubeSats, the otherwise known as Dove satellites, those are like continuously orbiting around Earth and collecting information about Earth features. And in the satellite missions, those are like orbital remote sensors, can be further categorized into three categories. Those are like major satellite missions, those are Earth observation missions, and weather information satellites, and those are like geosynchronous meteorological satellites. Mainly these satellites are used for communication purpose and collecting weather information. And also these international space stations that also mounted with sensors while orbiting around, that also act as a remote sensor and collecting this information around Earth features. So in this slide, what you're seeing is the depicted example of orbiting satellites around Earth. So the first satellite was launched by Russia, named Sputnik, in year 1957, later by US and China. And India, the first satellite was launched for space exploration in year 1975, known as Aryabhatta. So as of year 2018, in total, there are like 8,900 satellites were launched by almost 40 countries. Out of that, only less than 2,000 are operational. So the others have become space debris. So as you can see from this GIF file, the satellites are continuously orbiting around the Earth and collecting the information about the Earth features and sending this information back to the ground stations in Earth. So one should also have a clear idea of electromagnetic radiation. So, so this is a main source of energy that carries the information about the Earth futures. So the understanding of this electromagnetic radiation is important. So the electromagnetic radiation consists the electric field and magnetic field that travels in the speed of light. So the electric field varies in the magnitude perpendicular to the direction in which the radiation travels, whereas this magnetic field is right angle to the electric field. Both are traveling in the speed of light. So the other important property of electromagnetic radiation is wavelength and frequency. So based on this frequency, the electromagnetic radiation is categorized into different waves. So let us look at wavelength lambda. So wavelength is defined as the distance between distance between peaks of one wave cycle. So in here frequency is in which number of cycle a wave is passing in a given unit time. So the wavelength and frequency are inversely proportional to each other. So if the wavelength is shorter, the frequency of that particular wavelength is higher. And so the energy which carried by the wavelength is also higher. So for more clarity, let us look at this electromagnetic radiation, which are grouped based on the wavelengths. So as you can see, the electromagnetic radiation can be classified into shorter to longer wavelength, and the shorter wavelength which has the higher frequency, and the longer wavelength which has lower frequency. So both are inversely related to each other. So in this electromagnetic spectrum, the visible portion, that is the only portion which is which can be seen by human eye. That is the reason it's named as visible. So there are like other wavelengths that can be detected by remote sensing system. The remote sensing system, in such a way, it is engineered to capture the reflectance of the other portions of electromagnetic radiation too. So most of these Earth orbiting satellites will capture this visible portion and partly the near infrared and short wave infrared portion of the electromagnetic radiation. So the microwaves are mainly used in active remote sensing. So the energy source, the remote sensing system could be classified into passive and active. So the passive remote sensing system uses the illumination source from sun. So the reflected or emitted illumination from sun is being captured by the passive system. So it is only operational during the daylight time. But in the case of active remote sensing system, it has its own energy source. So it could emit the radiation towards Earth, and it can capture the re-emitted energy while orbiting. So the example for the active remote sensing system is microwave sensors, and uh, and also in ground level, the Doppler radar could be a perfect example for active remote sensing system. So how this energy is captured, or even the reflectance is captured by the remote sensor. So for example, you are seeing here is an linear imaging self scanner developed by Indian Space Research Organization. So which has the charge coupled device that are sensitive to particular wavelength. So here you have four different cameras, sensor that are sensitive to particular wavelength like blue, green, and red, also a near infrared. So it also has this inertial global positioning system that captures the geo coordinates of Earth and stores along with this reflectance energy. So basically, the reflectance from Earth surface features are stored as digital numbers, the intensity values. So based on this bit rates, the storage capacity of the sensor varies. So and capture this captured information are stored as image bands. So each wavelength has stored a separate band, and later it can be merged or stacked together to form a multispectral image. So this is a typical example of a multispectral natural color and false color composite you are seeing here. So the multispectral bands are found by merging or stacking these individual wavelength bands. As you can see, there are like 7 bands. Here, the 7 bands means these bands are captured under different wavelengths. For example, the blue band is from 0.4 to 0.5 micrometers, and the green is zero point 0.5 to 0.6 micrometer, and red it is 0.6 to 0.7 micrometer. So by stacking these 3 bands together, we could able to make out the natural color composite. As you can see, this natural color composite with water bodies and vegetation and other Earth surface features. And also to make this image interpretation more easy, so we have an option to create this false color composite. So basically, false color composite, we are replacing this blue band where the reflectance is lesser with green and red band consecutively, and the instead of red band, there is a near infrared is added here. So basically, the vegetation and almost other surface features have higher reflectance in the near infrared region. So we are trying to replace this blue band and blue band with green and green with red and the red band with NIR. So the false color composite could be made. So as you can see, the reflectance intensity is changed here in water bodies or even vegetation. Whatever you are seeing green here as a vegetation is now represented in red. So it makes easy to interpret the satellite image. So once the image are stacked for once the multispectral image is made, so we could able to see the spectral reflectance signature of various Earth features. So what you are seeing here is a generalized reflectance spectra of Earth materials under visible near infrared and short wave infrared bands. So for example, if you could see the clear water in violet, which have the reflectance in blue and green region, and after that in red and NIR there is an absorption happening. In case of the water with phytoplankton, due to this chlorophyll content in phytoplankton, so there is a slight reflectance in green band, green region, but there are more observation, like more absorption in blue and red region as compared to the open water. Similarly, in the vegetation, the healthy vegetation spectral signature, as you could see, there are like high absorption in blue and red region. This is because of the chlorophyll, and there is an reflectance in green region. So in red edge and also in near infrared region, there is a higher reflectance, but this portion is not visible to our eyes. So that is the reason we are seeing vegetation as green. And uh, and if you could see this soil and mineralized rocks, the absorption is less, whereas the reflectance is high in both the cases. So this is somewhat very similar to the spectrophotometer. Based on the chemical components and the features, the spectral reflectance property could change. Based on this spectral signatures, we could able to discriminate the different Earth features. So this is a typical example of vegetation reflectance. To see more in detail, as I said, during in the leaf pigments and chlorophyll, absorption is more, whereas in the green portion the reflectance, you can see some reflectance, and because of the cell structure, also the red edge and near infrared, there is a high reflectance, and because of the water content in short wave infrared, there is an absorption, and also partly it is reflected. So this is for an healthy vegetation, the spectral signature. If you could compare this with an the stressed vegetation or degraded vegetation, this could be easily discriminated based on this spectral signature profiles. So this is a typical example of natural color composite where the bands blue, green, and red was used. So this is a satellite imagery of an agriculture field, a group of fields where you could able to see the different growth stages of crops. So wherever you are seeing this light greens are maybe the start of growing period, and wherever this darker greens you are seeing is of peak of growing season. Because of high chlorophyll content, the dark green you are seeing, and the crops which are at the harvesting stage, which are showing uh, yellow or pale yellow colors, and the agriculture fields which are void of any crops are showing in no green cover. So based on this kind of an spectral signature profiles, we could easily make out and differentiate the different uh, vegetation condition, and also we can even classify the vegetation. Now, let me show you how this collected remote sensing data could be put in use for vegetation mapping, monitoring related studies. So the case one I'm presenting is identifying the land use land cover change and its hotspots. So the study was conducted in the semi-arid part of Maharashtra, that is Upper Godavari river basin, part of Ahmednagar district. This total geographical area of the study was 4,300 square kilometers. So part of this study, the main objective is to look at the long-term land use land cover change, almost like past 25 years from 1991 to 2016. So first, let me explain what is land use and land cover. So the land use is defined as how the land is utilized for human purposes, and land cover here is the naturally available resources such as forest or water bodies and even grasslands. All this are land cover. So the land use changes would affect the land cover, which is naturally present, and it leads to the affecting this function of ecosystem services and also the resource availability. So as part of the study, we are trying to map the locations where the intense land use land cover changes have occurred. So as I said already, the remote sensing system, like a remote sensing satellite, is continuously collecting this information. So for part of the study, we have used the satellite data from the year 1991 to 2016 with a decadal gap. So the years selected for the study are 1991, 2001, and 2011, and the recent year 2016. So with the surface reflectance properties, we have classified the study area into agriculture croplands, built up fallow land, forest, and plantation, and grasslands, unculturable wastelands, and water bodies. So, so the classification was done by image processing, and based on the surface reflectance properties you had seen earlier, that aided to discriminate all these different classes in this study area. So with this time series mapping of the land use changes, you could make out what type of transitions have happened in the land cover. So as you can see, the expansion of agriculture land, that is in yellow color, in the unculturable wasteland and grasslands, and in the recent years, the croplands are being converted into horticulture crops and monocropping, such as pomegranate and sugarcane in this region. And there are changes in the forest region too. Let me show. This is the forest region. So we have used the satellite data of every 8 days for understanding the significant changes in vegetative cover. So we have kind of stacked 8 days, every 8 days image from the year 2001 to 2016, and applied a Mann-Kendall test to identify the significance of vegetation greening and browning. Greening here is significant growth in vegetation, the healthy vegetation, and browning is the degradation in vegetation. As you can see in the forest region, there was a lot of degradation was happened over the 15 years. So we looked into what was the reason it happened. So we come to know there is a degradation of dense forest canopy going into open forest, and there is an increase in scrub forest too in recent years. So with these, whatever you are seeing here in the browning or red in color are the hot spots where the degradation is happening. It may be due to the expansion of agriculture land, or even the built up or construction of a new dam, or degradation of forest cover. So all these informations could be easily captured by the remote sensing system, and we can use it for policy making or making important decisions for interventions. So in the case 2, this study was conducted in Ramanathapuram district of Tamil Nadu. So mapping this invasive plant species, Prosopis juliflora. So the Prosopis juliflora was introduced in this region in year 1963 to 64 as a farm forestry program. During those years, there was a severe famine in this region. What happened is after this introduction, because of this invasive nature of this plant, it was spread over the agriculture lands and tank irrigation system in this region. Ramanathapuram is known as the land of tanks. As you could see, this is the historical cascading tank irrigation system in southern India, and part of Ramanathapuram you are seeing here. So this invasive plant, Prosopis juliflora, have occupied the large tank irrigation system along with the other land use changes happening around the region. This invasive plant also devastated this irrigation system, historical irrigation system. So the idea is to map out this Prosopis juliflora expansion in this region in different years. Again, here the surface reflectance of this Prosopis juliflora helped us to, kind of discriminate from other plantations like palm trees and coconut trees in this region, and also the croplands. So it has a higher reflectance in the NIR region because of higher year-round green cover, as you know. So based on this spectral property and applying this machine learning technique like support vector machine, we could able to classify this different vegetation in this region and accurately map this Prosopis juliflora. And here you are seeing the expansion of Prosopis juliflora and its encroachment in cascading tank irrigation systems of Ramanathapuram Taluk. So as you can see from the year 1998, the area encroached was nearly 600 hectares. That was nearly tripled in the year 1998, covering 1600 hectares of tank irrigation system alone. The agriculture lands also occupied by this invader. And in the year 2007, the area encroached by Prosopis was 1500, and we have analyzed the reason being why this area is reduced. So there were new biomass-based power generation companies have started in and around the Ramanathapuram district. So this Prosopis juliflora was used as a biomass for generating the electricity. So during that time, there was a large amount of wood was cut from this Prosopis juliflora. However, in the year 2014, as you could see, the expansion is further increased because of this invasive nature. Even you cut this tree, there is a new tree developing from the same the place where you cut the tree, and the area encroached was nearly 2800 in the year 2014. So it was, as I said, it was already, it was also devastating the agriculture in this region and also affecting the livelihood. So in case 3, I'm going to show how the hyperspectral image, remote sensing image could use to monitor the vegetation health. So the study was conducted in Muthupet Lagoon region, the Thuraikadu Reserve Forest. So mainly this is a mangrove forest area. So the objective was to identify the degraded vegetation, degraded mangroves in this region. So for this purpose, we have utilized the hyperspectral remote sensing data. So the hyperspectral remote sensing data differs from the multispectral image, which I have showed earlier, where there are like 7 bands. But in the case of hyperspectral, there are more than 200 bands in the narrow wavelength to identify the surface reflectance of Earth futures. So with the help of this hyperspectral data, we mapped the reflectance of healthy and degraded vegetations. As you could see, the difference between the healthy and degraded vegetation reflection was uh, clearly visible because of the cell structure between the healthy and degraded mangrove. The reflectance property was significantly changed. With this property of reflectance, we could able to map out this degraded mangroves in the reserve forest area. So based on the machine learning algorithm, we have classified the reserve forest area into degraded mangrove and healthy sparse mangroves and backwaters. So with this hyperspectral data, we could map this health condition of vegetation too. So, and also the remote sensing data is efficiently used in crop monitoring related activities because of this high temporal nature. So it revisits the same location in, like a frequent interval of even daily interval, or even every 5 days nowadays, you are getting a new image observed by the remote sensors. So for the agriculture, from the sowing date to harvesting date, we could able to capture continuously the progress of crop growth, wherever any stress is happening or how much should be the yield. All this could be kind of predicted from this remote sensing data. In the case of biomass estimation, so the allometric models could be developed by field studies from selected, randomly selected plots. So the above ground biomass calculated from the selected plots can be regressed with spectral property of remote sensing data. So the above ground biomass can be calculated for the larger area. So some of the recent advancements in remote sensing capabilities, as you could see in the right hand side, so the US have developed this Worldview 4, which has the spatial resolution of 31 centimeter. That means the any object with the property of more than 31 square centimeter could be easily mapped by this sensor. And India also developed a satellite, Cartosat 3, which is at present, which is the highest spatial resolution satellite, which has a spatial resolution of 25 centimeters. So, and also the temporal resolution of satellites also increased. As I said, like every day we could able to capture the changes happening around the Earth. And also the cloud computing facilities are, increase the efficiency of image processing and analysis. So this example you are seeing here is a vegetation change happened over entire India during the year 2019-20, which was calculated in cloud computing tool Google Earth Engine. So, and one should also keep in mind that remote sensing is not a panacea. It need adequate ground experiments to validate and like calibrate this remote sensing system to make accurate classification or even extracting the information and so on. Thank you. I hope you have enjoyed the presentation. If you have any query or doubts, you can write to me to this email ID, and I'm happy to answer your queries. Stay home, stay safe, keep learning. Goodbye.